for what you said, the red flags, knowing that something is not okay. I think that something that I often say is it's not that hard to notice when somebody is not okay, when their mental health isn't in good shape. What is hard is to know what to do, if you should do anything about it, and to have the confidence to speak to them or to speak out to someone else who might be able to be helpful. Because after all, we've all grown up knowing that we should mind our own business, and that what goes on I'm sure I'm not the only one who was told growing up what goes on in this house stays in this
Stay in this
house.
house.
And we don't air our dirty laundry. You don't talk about this out at school, out with your friends, whatever. But the truth is that we all need to be caring for one another. Community care is real. Humans are social creatures, and when we live in community with one another, we care for one another. We can notice that someone's not okay, and with a little bit of instruction, we also can get the confidence that we need to talk to someone and say, hey, I noticed that you're not okay. I'm here to listen to you. I'd like to help if I can. I care about you. I'm saying short things that are not hard to do, and we all feel them all the time, but we don't all reach out. And the big reason is the stigma around mental health. We don't want to make people feel embarrassed. We don't want people to be angry with us because we're stepping in a space that they're not comfortable talking about. But we need to all push beyond our reluctance there and beyond our feelings of shame or stigma or embarrassment or whatever we've got about mental health, so that we can help one another. Our foundation, the Sarah Foundation, focuses very specifically on suicide prevention, preventing suicide. However, you brought up a number of other things that probably have mental health involved in those communities that you were mentioning with those tragedies. And studies show that when we address mental health in any way, it helps across the spectrum.
Yeah. Um, you and your husband travel to different cities teaching Safe Talk. So tell us, what is Safe Talk and how did Safe Talk come to be?
I might have to back up a little bit, but
Okay.
before I get there, and maybe talk about how we really started the foundation.
Okay.
And because then we ended up at a point where Safe Talk and Question, Persuade, Refer have become our two main programs. So, as you might guess, the Sarah Peterson Foundation was named for Sarah Peterson, who was our daughter. She was I like to share this story. It's a hard and sad story, and I might cry,
That's
but
okay.
it's important because sharing our family's story and Sarah's story, I hope, can let people know that a regular kid from a family that's intact, there's nothing terrible going on. We lived in a nice house and a nice place. We had jobs, 4 children. Yet one of our children became ill with mental health issues that became serious, and she died of that. So anyway, Sarah, we have my husband and I have 4 kids. Sarah was the third, 2 boys, 2 girls. She was a regular kid. She died when she was in 9th grade, but really her problems occurred and began in 8th grade. So she was a middle schooler. She was a lover of nature. She was a very accomplished runner, running track and cross country in school, doing very well. So people knew her because of that, because she was athletic. She was still a Girl Scout, which is a little bit unusual as the girls get older, but she was really involved with the community things that they did. And she cared about those things. And in 2014, she had just started 9th grade. And in the fall of her 9th grade year, her mental health was just really getting precarious. She was cutting She said that she didn't want to live. She was ambivalent about things she used to love, like running track had really been a big deal to her. She was also a swimmer, though that was clearly second to running. And she quit swimming. She quit the team, quit doing what she was doing there with her team. So big change, big red flag, but we didn't know that. We didn't have that education on board at the time. Obviously, we knew cutting was a big red flag. When we found out about that, we knew that this was not good. So things were not good. And we never thought that she actually would kill herself. And part of the reason for that was that even though she expressed a wish to end her life, we didn't anticipate that a young person like her, who really had a pretty good life, would organize that and complete it through. That just seemed too out there, too unimaginable for anyone. She was receiving counseling. It seemed like all the right things were happening, but she did in January of 2014 end her life. And in the midst of that aftermath, that quick aftermath in the week that it happened, we had 3 other teenagers as well, because they're a tight group in our family. And our other daughter said, we should be able to do something more about this. Why aren't we talking about mental health in health class at school? Why does no one talk about it? And when I do say that my sister has some problems, no one wants to hear it, talk about it. This is just not, maybe a lot of people could have been more understanding about what was happening, both for Sarah and for our other kids who were also dealing with it. And I started thinking, I had been a teacher for years. I wasn't teaching at the time. I had moved on to a different career, but I had taught young people for a number of years. My husband had retired from the United States Marine Corps and was, starting a second career after that retirement. And, our daughter just kind of said, Mom, you are a teacher. Dad is a businessman. Well, what can we do? What can we build? What could happen? And we started thinking, could we really actually make a nonprofit and have a program to teach young people about mental health, signs of suicide, things like that? And in investigating that, we found that there really was nothing like that around, that there was a need because there wasn't one already in place that was focused on prevention rather than treatment. And it just made sense to me that if you can prevent something in the first place and not need treatment, that would be preferable. Early intervention is a real thing, which of course I knew from teaching school for so long. And so we and a few friends formed a board of directors, got the nonprofit going, got it started. And we started with one program that was for youth and for teachers. And we kind of thought, maybe we could, maybe schools would be interested in this, maybe youth groups. And honestly, we had the most success in youth groups, more so than schools. Schools seemed afraid of the topic. They kind of weren't ready to be talking very much about mental health. This was 9 years ago, and the landscape was a lot different than it is now. One thing that we quickly figured out is that you cannot teach groups of young people that they need to talk about their mental health, that they need to go to trusted adults when help is needed, just like they would for a physical illness. You go to the adults, you say, Mom, I don't feel good. I think I need to go to the doctor. You can't teach kids to do those parallel things in the mental health space without equipping the adults to hear them and know what to do and not be shocked by the real talk that the kids may come out with, that they may talk about cutting, they may talk about suicidal ideas, ideation. These things are hard to hear. And there's a temptation to say, no, you don't, and shut it down when our young people are struggling and they really need help. So we quickly decided we need adult programs too.
Yes.
And reinventing the wheel didn't make sense. We found Safe Talk and Question, Persuade, Refer, which are evidence-based national programs with science behind them. And we got certified to provide them. The Sarah Peterson Foundation uses both our small staff as well as volunteers who are willing to be certified to provide various programs, both those ones I just mentioned for adults, and then we have a suite of programs that we have for youth, for schools, for teachers, for groups of parents, like should you have a parent night someplace.
Mhm.
We use the Erica's Lighthouse programs made by a wonderful company that focuses just on that. Again, evidence-based programs. So at this point, we have, I think, 7 or 8 different types of programs. That way it can really be customized to what your group is like. Oh, and I left out an important one. There is a Christian faith-based program that's very much like Safe Talk called Soul Shop. And we do Soul Shop for congregations or groups of adults in church. And when I say adults, and I'm referring to educational programs that we do, they're really for ages 15 or 16 and older. So older teens and adults can take those sort of educational programs. Again, I feel like you ask a short question. I'm long-winded tonight, but I'm passionate about it.
But it's great information, information that needs to be out there, that people know that there are programs that's available, to come to your church or your small group or whatever that you may be having. And it used to be, Michelle, that you didn't hear of Black people killing themselves. But not just in my hometown last week, there were 2 people killed themselves in my hometown last week. So
I'm
yeah,
so sorry to hear that.
it really, makes you sit back and think, and not only those 2, there's been other, Black people that have killed themselves, and that used to be, as a matter of fact, my uncle, but this was years ago. My uncle killed himself, and it just used to be that you didn't really hear it among the Black race.
That is true. And it's still true that African Americans are less likely than white Americans when you think of the whole group, they are less likely to die by suicide. But something that's really concerning, and I'm so glad you brought that up, is that the latest statistics, when they do the demographics by race, are showing that one of the fastest rising suicide rates is among young African American men. And when I say young, I mean ages 14 to 25, and even a little older than that, even up to 30. So that is of huge concern, of course, in the Black community and everywhere. We cannot be losing anybody to suicide. Suicide is a preventable death. There are things we can do, but I'm very concerned that a lot of times we provide passive information. We say, here, have this phone number, pick up this flyer off the table. And we don't really teach people skills. And we're giving the help to the people that might need it. But when they are in a really dark place of clinical depression, they may not be able to help themselves. And when I say that, I mean, when someone dies by suicide, it seems like in the aftermath, you often hear, he had the phone number, the crisis number. He knew who to call. He knew what to do. He knew I would listen to him. He knew there was a therapist. He had a family physician. And they didn't access help in any of those ways. And I believe that it's because the person in the dark place can't get their own help. We just need to be there giving them the help. Just like the person who has a heart attack is laying on the ground, clutching their chest. We recognize they might be having a heart attack, and we rush to give the help and to call for help. We don't say, oh, we think you're having a heart attack, you better do this. We just give it because we have had some training, and it's become a normal thing now that we're all on the lookout for signs of heart attack. We recognize the signs, and we know a few things to do so that we can then get them to the cardiologist, to the heart hospital, to the places that they need to go to. And I'm talking about that because I think there's a parallel with the idea of Safe Talk and Question, Persuade, Refer being programs that take between an hour and a half and 3.5 hours, where you learn to recognize the signs of a mental health crisis and a possibly suicidal person. And then you learn a few skills that can help them and keep them safe. And then you refer them to the right kind of care. In this case, the therapist, the social worker, the mental health professional. But you can see how it's sort of a parallel. And in fact, Question, Persuade, Refer is abbreviated QPR, which rhymes with CPR. And, you can kind of see how it could work. The problem is, even though these programs have been around for a little while, most people listening today are probably hearing about them for the first time. People don't commonly know about programs that could help them help someone else who might be having a mental health crisis. And as I mentioned, it's just a 1.5 to 3 hour time span where you could learn either QPR or Safe Talk, and that would give a person the confidence to know that if someone in their life, a family member, a coworker, a neighbor, a person you were talking to, you heard or saw some signs that they might be thinking about suicide, you would feel confident and know what to do, what to say, how to approach them with dignity, with care, with concern, and direct them to help that's in the area.
Now, there's a crisis number that they can call. Now, is this crisis number, is it nationwide?
Yes. Good. I see we have on our screen 988 crisis number for mental health. 988 is a fairly new mental health crisis number. Now, there's also an older 10-digit number, an 800 number. And that number still works. So if someone is with us and they're kind of going, oh, I've got a different number, that still works. The thing about 988 is that it's easy to remember because it's short. And you can call it or you can text it. So you could just be texting the word hello to 988. Someone will text you back saying, you've reached 988. Would you like to text with a counselor? You text yes. And then you're texting for free with a trained counselor who can talk with you. The other really great thing about it is that there doesn't have to be a crisis in progress. Think of it more like a nurse advice line, the way you think of that. No question is too dumb. No question is not important. You can use the 988 crisis number either by text or by calling. And it can be something as simple as, my child is doing this. Should I be worried? If it's about mental health and you would like to ask a counselor something, that is an excellent resource. You also can use it when there is a more serious thing going on. But it's important to remember that it's not like 911 in that they don't send someone to you. So if you need help moving toward you, then you still need to use 911.
Okay.
And this is a national number. I can't remember if I said that at the beginning, but you did ask it. This is a national number. It will route to something in your zip code or in your area code. I'm sorry. It should route to the crisis call center that uses your area code, which means that if you are traveling, it can be a little convoluted and you might not be getting help that's local to exactly where you are. So I'm in Virginia. If I'm on vacation, in California, and I call 988, it knows my area code. I'm going to reach a call center back home in Virginia. And if I am asking something specific to where I am in California, they may not have resources at their fingertips, though they can probably still find me help. But anyway, it is a great resource to have. It's still best to be able to talk to someone face to face. We talked earlier about humans being social, and having connections and living in community is still going to be the preferred way to help one another, to care for one another, to notice that someone's not okay, and so forth.
And talk about copycat suicide, because you find that be going on sometime too.
Yes. So-called copycat suicides, the real term for that is suicide contagion, as in contagious. And when a person is in a dark place and they might be thinking about suicide, it is not helpful for them to hear the details of someone else's suicide. So for example, if there is some irresponsible reporting on the news, or even maybe just conversation, um, and that person hears all the details of how someone has died by suicide, like where and when and the method used and so forth, it's not considered safe for them to have sort of a template or a blueprint of how someone else died by suicide. If they are also already thinking about it, you've sort of given them some information about how that might be possible for them to follow through. And we don't want that, of course. We want to be offering them hope, keeping them safe, finding them treatment and the care that they need.
And what are some red flags that maybe somebody who's not aware or educated, that maybe have somebody in their home, or somebody that they know, maybe somebody on their job, or somebody in their family, maybe one of their neighbors, or one of their children's friends or something. What are some of the red flags that maybe we should look for?
That is a really great question. We can't provide a full list of every single
Mhm.
thing. I'm going to give you a few. And also, I'm going to say your best tool is your gut, your spidey sense, your whatever you want to call it, when you know somebody and something doesn't seem right. So the number one thing is that something isn't right. A person is not doing their normal activities. They're maybe stopping things that they used to enjoy doing. Um, there's a person that walks I'm home today, and there's a person that walks their dog at the same time. They're like a clock. They go by my front window every day. And if I'm around, I wave. And you know, it should concern me if I don't see her, probably. And I know her slightly. She's a neighbor, an older person, and I see her with this dog, but that is her routine. And if I don't see her, that's going to be odd.
Mhm.
Someone who always joins a group for lunch, maybe say you mentioned young people, they eat together in school or so forth. And then this person isn't doing that. Somebody who quits a team or a band or something that is their normal activity. That's worth a caring conversation, right? What's going on with you? What's changed? We notice you, because it's powerful when people see each other and know them. There are also some red flags that you probably would think of, but they're worth mentioning. A person who begins self-medicating with drugs or alcohol, and that's out of character for them. A person who is perhaps isolating themselves, just withdrawing and not not, again, engaging in their usual activities, people who maybe engage in some risky behavior with the way I mentioned drugs and alcohol, but also maybe the way they drive, maybe going places where they really aren't safe, things that don't make sense, perhaps. All of these things would be considered something that you should check up on, and you should consider that maybe their mental health needs a checkup. Maybe there's something going on that they could receive help with.
Yeah, because sometimes, even on the job or whatever you may be doing, sometimes you need to just take a mental health break. You know what I'm saying?
I
Sometimes
really
we
know what you're
need to take
saying.
a mental health break.
And I hope we're working towards that, because after all, if I wake up and I'm physically not, I'm coughing, I'm sick, my throat hurts and so forth. I call my boss, hey, I can't come in. I need the day off. Maybe I don't even feel like I need to go to the doctor, but I don't feel like I can do my job. Unfortunately, I think it's not the same when we need a mental health break and we
Mhm.
say, I don't feel like I can do my job today. I need this day off. There are places where that is okay, but I just
Uh-huh.
don't think there are very many of them. I
It's
think
not
we're
many.
working it.
It's not many. You tell people I'm gonna take a mental health day, they're like, "What?"
Right. And in conversation times like this, people are like, oh, yeah, we should have that. But then when you're actually saying you're going to do it, it comes out a little different.
So, in your own self experience, how when it comes to like referring people to counselors and different things like that, have you had the experience to where maybe some nationalities prefer their own nationality versus just going to anybody because maybe they feel as though if I'm black, I can relate better to a black, or if you're white, you can relate better to a white counselor. If I'm Hispanic, I can relate better, to a Hispanic. Have you found that within or heard that within the counseling community?
I have heard that. And I'll say again that I am not a counselor. And we don't have counselors at the Sarah Peterson Foundation. We're strictly in prevention. So thinking of us more like teachers. But I think I understand that. I think that we all relate to people who share our experience, and people who understand our own culture are likely people that we're going to be maybe more comfortable talking to about sensitive topics. There is still stigma and shame attached with mental health, and I can understand, particularly minorities wanting someone who looks like them and who understands maybe their upbringing and their culture. I do think that I hear a lot of people, even young people. I think I spent a lot of time on college campuses lately. A lot of colleges have had mental health walks this spring, and I've done some of the programming like Safe Talk and others on college campuses. And I do feel like I like people in that age demographic are a little more fluid with who they hang out with and who they date as far as other cultures, other races. But I also think that when they want to talk to a counselor and want to talk about sensitive things, they do have a preference many times for someone who they feel like might have grown up like them and might understand their what they're saying and feeling and perhaps going through.
Yeah, I could see that with some. And with a lot of other people, it don't even matter. It doesn't matter.
Right. And well, that's why I said, probably, at least in my mind, maybe if you're in a minority group, you feel it more.
Hmm.
It's, that's just part of your experience, and maybe if you're me in the more majority group, maybe we're more open because we have different privilege. We can't white privilege is real. That's in the news a whole lot lately, but it's for a reason. It's real.
So, I know you've already talked about the Sarah Michelle Peterson Foundation. Is there anything else you want us to tell us about the foundation, and how can people give to the foundation?
Well, there are a couple things I'd like to say, and that too. Um, First, I'd like everyone to take away from this. I'd like people in May is Mental Health Month. So this month is one of our biggest months for being on podcasts, on the radio, out in the community. But we do mental health programming all year long, and we do it free for all kinds of groups. So what I'd really like people to think about is coming to a class of some kind. Whether it's Safe Talk, and I know we'll get to, we have Safe Talk coming up. You and I together have planned that, so
Yeah.
we'll get to that. But Safe Talk, the shorter version, which is Question, Persuade, Refer, QPR, the Soul Shop, which is for church communities, all of these options and many of which are on our website, all of them are available. And my number one thing is learn how to help people in your life. Overcome your stigma about going to that class, because you're going to have people that say, oh, do you need it? Like who are you worried about? Overcome that. Think of it like CPR. I'm going to go there and learn that just in case I need it, and I hope I don't need it. I have learned CPR over and over again, and I've never had to do it, thank goodness. But I still could give it a go if I need to, and I would. I would like it to be throughout Hampton Roads, throughout the world, really, but I'm going to start here. I would like everybody to be able to recognize, gosh, this person does not seem okay, and I'm not afraid to go talk to them about it. I know what to say. I learned in Safe Talk class, I can do this. And then I will help them find a counselor or a caregiver if we decide together that they need it. So that's my number one thing. Commit to getting a little bit of learning on board. Spend a couple hours to do that. My second thing is, yes, you can give to the Sarah Foundation. That's how we're able to give free programming throughout Hampton Roads. So all you have to do is go on our website. There are donate buttons. If you go to the donate page, you can donate online. It'll tell you where to send a check if you want to do that. And it has other information. There are also ways to help us besides monetarily. We love it when people follow us on social media and share what we're posting. We post about programs that are coming up that you can sign up for. We post mental health tips. We post things that our partners in mental health are doing across the region. And we love to have followers. We have Facebook at SMP Foundation. We have Instagram at SMP Foundation. And of course, we also would love people to not just come to a program, but organize one for their group. And that's not hard. All you do is use the contact form on our website, and click contact, and you're able to send us an email, and we will get back to you, so that if you wanted to have a program for your youth group at your church, at the place where you work, or any other type of group that you would be interested in having us train, we would be glad to do that. The other thing that I want to say as I wrap this up is studies show that the tipping point for a community public health situation is to have 15% of the community trained to be an alert helper. Most of our data from this comes from people knowing CPR. You're much more likely to survive a heart attack if there's a lot of people around you that know CPR, right?
Mhm.
So if you have a heart attack, there's going to probably be somebody close to you who can help. So we are trying to increase the number of people in Hampton Roads who are able to address someone having a mental health crisis. And hopefully that person would receive the care that they need and survive their crisis. So to do that, 15% of between 15 and 20% of the Hampton Roads population is about 300,000 people. That means my initial goal right now is that we and the others in our community who provide Safe Talk and QPR would attempt to train 300,000 people. That is a big goal, but we're not going to do it alone. And everybody working together to come to programs, to set up programs, to provide the programs, to pay for the programs, we can make it happen so that Hampton Roads becomes a group of cities, a community where you are so much less likely to die by suicide, because there's going to be somebody somewhere at your work, in your neighborhood, in your family, who recognizes that you're showing the signs and doesn't wait for you to ask for help, but just gives you the help that you need and makes sure that you get the care you need and you are on the path to recovering.
Yeah, and it's really needed in the faith-based communities, because a lot of time a lot of people go to church, we get in the presence of the Lord, and we lift our hands and we glorify God, and we dance before the Lord, we speak in tongues and all this. But then when we leave the church, here you go back to the same situation that you left when you went to church, and people become depressed, and people become with anxiety and stuff. And then we got people, let me just put it like this. We have people that set up in the church and with suicidal thoughts, suicidal tendencies sometimes.
Yes.
That sets right there in the church. And so it's really needed in the faith-based communities.
It really is. And I think more and more we're having some understanding of that and some acceptance that on any given Sunday, there are people in the pews who are thinking about ending their lives. They're there to ask God for guidance. They're there to pray. They're there to pray sometimes for themselves because they've been having suicidal thoughts, or maybe they're very worried about someone else. Mm-hmm. And they're asking for God's guidance, asking for God's help. And I am also a person of prayer. But I think you can have a pastor and a counselor. Mm-hmm. You can pray and you can take medication if needed. You can combine your prayer, your medication, your counseling. It's all a recipe of what you might need to get well and to stay well. And I do think that I do know that in our Soul Shop program for congregations, there are some statistics about that. If I remember right, it's 1 in 17. I could be slightly off, but 1 in 17 people. And, if you've got 100 people, you're talking about, 4 or 5 in that group right then thinking about suicide.
And they need to know it's okay to go to somebody in the church, the mother of the church, the pastor of the church, the first lady of the church, the elder in the church, somebody, and say, this is what's going on with me. It's safe to do that. You can do that. You can talk to somebody in your church, if you're faith-based, in your church, or if you're not faith-based, whatever you're involved in. Hey, this is what's going on with me. And I just need to talk it out. I need to talk about it. I don't understand it. I don't understand what's going on with me. And, and that's another way that you can get some help.
Yes. I do think a lot of times people just need to talk. They need connection. They need someone who will listen to them, let them talk it out, mm-hmm. And maybe decide together what else we need to do. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes talking it through is enough. A lot of times it's not, though. And it can be scary to be on your own with that. But when you've got a listener, somebody who cares about you, who says, I'm here to help, let's talk it through, and then let's decide together where we should go for more help, because this is important and we need more help.
Mhm.
And also asking the hard questions, let's keep you safe for now. If you're thinking about suicide, have you thought about how you would do that? Do you have materials, what you were thinking you would use to end your life? And who could we have hold on to that while you're feeling this way? It's just important that we address safety, and then we start rebuilding hope for people who need it.
Yes. So you got some upcoming events that's coming up. So talk about some of the events you coming up. I know this weekend we have an event. The chaplains in the 757, the Hampton Roads area have an event that's coming up. But you have more events that's coming up too.
We do. First, the chaplains have Safe Talk coming up on Saturday. Is that open to others at all, or is that only for the closed group of chaplains?
It's open for anybody, but like you say, they just got to make sure that they sign up because the seats are
Exactly.
limited.
Right. There are only 30 seats, but that is open to others. I thought so, but I want to make sure
Yeah,
with you.
yeah, it is.
So Safe Talk is a 3.5 hour suicide alertness program where you learn the things that I've been talking about today. And that is in Hampton. So you can, is there a way for people, I know we don't have it to flash it on the screen. What's the
We
best
can
way
have
for
the
someone who's
flyer.
listening? Can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can get in touch with
Okay.
me. They can call me at 757-776-2987. So yeah, they can contact me.
So you can contact Mildred if you're interested in this Saturday attending Safe Talk in Hampton. You can also find that on Eventbrite, because that's where the actual sign up is. That's where I put it. So you can look for it on Eventbrite. It's called Safe Talk for Chaplains. It's on, and it clearly says that it's in Hampton. So that is one program we have coming up. We also have Safe Talk this Friday, the day before that, and it's at the Virginia Beach Convention Center. You can find that on Eventbrite. Just look for Safe Talk in Virginia Beach on Eventbrite and it will pop up. The Sarah Peterson Foundation every month does Safe Talk or QPR, and sometimes both. I'd also like to mention something else that's going on. We have a partnership right now with the Virginia Stage Company, and most of their plays, their wonderful plays, are staged at the Wells Theater in Norfolk, Virginia. Right now, one of their plays that's about mental health, titled Every Brilliant Thing, is on tour around the area. They have a slightly shortened version of it, and it's a delightful play. And I say that, and it's about mental health.
I need to write that down.
It's called Every Brilliant Thing.
Every
It's
brilliant.
free.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful play that includes some voluntary audience participation. You don't have to participate, but it has some fun little parts for audience to do that are interested. And I highly recommend it. And we are there with our resource table pretty much every time that it's performed. It's coming up on May 16th at the Central Library in Virginia Beach on Virginia Beach Boulevard. I believe it's called the Meyer Obendorf Library. I'm probably saying that slightly wrong, but it's findable. It's also at St. Matthew's Catholic School on May 25th, and it's at First Lutheran Church in Norfolk, which is in Ghent, on June 3rd. Now, I mentioned before that we love to stay in touch with folks and that you can follow the Sarah Peterson Foundation on Facebook and Instagram. If you go to our website, you can sign up to hear from us periodically. We do not fill your inbox. We send out newsletters about 6 times a year about things that are going on. And May is Mental Health Month. So we are just about to release a newsletter with the things I've just mentioned, plus some other things that are going on for Mental Health Month. And it kind of rolls into June because there are so many good things that the first week of June, there's some things too. I mentioned the play on June 3rd. So there are numerous opportunities to see this really charming play that the Virginia Stage Company is doing. Other than that, I believe there's a smattering of other things that's on our website. I kind of don't want to start a whole list, but there are always things going on. Plus, you can always schedule your own training through us.
And you want to give your social media info again?
Sure. We only have Facebook and Instagram. Those are the only two we use. And they're both at SMP Foundation. That is the handle for both of them.
Okay. At SMP Foundation.
Right.
Okay. Well, let me tell you, I am so glad. Is there anything that you want to say to anybody that may be out here listening who may be going through a tough time right now and can't even see a way out? What would you say to that person?
I would say to that person, tell someone face to face if you can. If you can't think of who to tell or you can't bring yourself to, call 988. Call it. If you can't think of talking to someone, text 988. Just text hello to 988 and let them talk to you. Share your true feelings. Tell the truth when you're asked questions. Let a professional help guide you with your next steps, because depression is not your fault. That's our tagline for a reason. Depression is just not your fault. It's an illness. And if we were ill with any other thing, we wouldn't think it's our fault. But when it's a mental illness, we feel like it's some kind of a failing, a weakness, and that just isn't true. It's an illness. Tell somebody, and if they aren't helpful, tell somebody else, because help is available for mental illness. It just is. And nobody should be suffering. And the same goes for those of you who might be feeling very anxious. I sometimes call depression and anxiety hand-holding cousins, because people are anxious and it makes them depressed. I mean, that mental health issues, it's a stew. It's not one thing. So if something is going on, please know that you're not alone. You're not the first person or the only person to feel that way. There are lots of people who would care and help if only they knew. And you would be surprised at how many people in your life would care about you and be willing to help.
Yes, my dad was a mental health patient. He dealt with schizophrenia. Yeah, and he had to do medications and stuff. And you always knew when he wasn't on this medication, because as you were talking about, the character change, different changes that you would see in him. And that would be our clue to know, okay, he off his medication.
Yeah, and those that need medication, it levels them out. It makes a colorless gray life come back to life with the colors and the interests, and the good parts of life can come back.
Yes, yes. But lady, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. Thank you so much. And so tell everybody how they can contact you. I know you gave your social media. Is there any other way?
Absolutely. On our website, worldwithoutsuicide.org, you can click the contact button, go to the contact page, send us a note, let us know what you need, and we will get back to you. I kind of don't want to confuse it with giving out emails and phone numbers and things. That is the most streamlined way. Just go to the website. You might find what you need on there. And if you have something in mind, please click the contact page and we will get back to you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And if Let's Be Real About It has been a blessing to you, please consider sending a love gift to my Cash App, which is $ Mildred Towns. That's $ Mildred Towns. And you can also order my book, Truth, My Closet Secrets Revealed. You can order off of Amazon, or you can contact me at 757-776-2987, or you can email me at iheartministries@gmail.com. This book talks about my crazy life, y'all, and also my brochure. If you ever thinking about having an abortion, please get my brochure and read it before you make your decision. Again, you can contact me at 757-776-2987, or you can email me at iheartministries@gmail.com. And we would like to thank everybody who watched the show nationally and internationally. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch the show. And until next week, let the peace of God reign, rule, and abide in your hearts. I'm Mildred Towns. Thank you for watching.
What up, y'all? It's your boy back on stage. We here at J&K Style and Grill with my main man.
J&K Style Grill, home of the original waffle burger, stuffed wings, and Philly steak egg roll.
The food was amazing, man. I'm talking about collard green stuffed chicken, mac and cheese stuffed chicken, waffle burger with the special sauce.
With the special sauce.
Come on, man. What are you doing if you ain't eating here? You're wasting your life.
Pull up.
J&K Style Grill, you can copy the style.
But never the spec.
We got it.
We got it.
Hey.